Okay, looks like we're live. Happy Monday morning mentoring. I'm Stefana, and today I'm going to talk about the topic of cravings. This is one of those that, we all experience cravings of one form or another. Today I'm going to talk specifically about food cravings, but let's look at this concept around cravings versus hunger. And let me tie this into what I started with the beginning of the month, because this whole month I'm really focused on talking about optimal nutrition. And ultimately, what we want to get rid of is the processed foods, because that definitely has an effect on this craving cycle. And last week I talked about cause and effect. And while I didn't specifically tie it to the cravings, I want to today, because there is a cause and effect to our cravings. They're not just there. And I want you to know that if you do have cravings, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's not anything wrong with you. There's a cause and there's an effect. And so I'm going to unpack that a little bit today. We don't always crave the things that are good for us, like broccoli, right? When's the last time you craved broccoli? Mostly we're craving cookies or pizza or maybe soda or, something that likely has been put into the pattern of the brain. And without going into too much detail on peptides and the cortex and how basically the brain, the cerebral cortex, and how it affects the body, they're so intertwined, and everything we do is directly correlated. So if we take a simple action today that isn't the healthiest, we've just laid down a pattern that's causing a certain effect, and we're going to experience the effect later. So cravings, that's how we really get cravings. It's also along the lines of addictions. Now, there's so much more to unpack on this, but I want to talk about this because it's a big topic. And if you understand it and you're prepared with some of the tips that I'm going to share, you're going to be able to really get through this, and we'll call it a hurdle or a challenge, and you're going to be stronger as a result of understanding this concept and not always at the whim of those cravings, okay? If we are just meeting, good. Okay, so if this is the first time you're here, do put live in the chat if you're watching live, and let me know that you're here. Put replay if you're watching the replay. But before I get into the tips, I want to introduce myself. I'm Stefana Johnson. I'm the founder and creator of Yogilachi. The Yogilachi method is so beautiful. It is focused on optimal movement, mindset, and nutrition. I coined the word from yoga, Pilates, and Tai Chi. And in doing that, created a methodology that really transforms an individual's body as well as their life, but from the inside out. And I'm also the CEO, I like to say CEO, Chief Empowerment Officer of Powerhouse Leaders. And in the work that I do with my clients is I'm working with entrepreneurs, busy executives, to help them drop the extra weight, look and feel amazing so that they perform and are productive at their highest level and can sustain that so that their profit rises and all of that. We've seen such enormous increase in energy and focus and productivity by doing simple things of dropping the extra weight that you might be carrying around. And I do say it is physical, but there's also the mental and emotional piece to it. That's why I focus on fitness coaching, nutrition coaching, the lifestyle coaching, and the energy coaching. And so hand in hand, that really works to get the best possible results for my clients. And I have been doing this for more than 2 decades and absolutely love it. And I'm glad you're here. So thank you for joining. So appreciate you being part of my tribe and answering your questions and sharing my knowledge is something that I am passionate about and love to do. So be sure if you have any questions, post. You can post them in the chat if they're not too personal, or you can directly email me or text me, okay? All right, so as I said, over the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about, like the first week, I talked about tracking. Because if you're not aware of something, it's really hard to do anything about it, right? So the first piece is awareness. I'm always talking about that, right? You have to be aware first, and that's why we track. So when we track, we now have data to look at and observe. So the first week, if you want to go back and see the Monday morning mentoring 2 weeks ago, first week of August, I talked about how to track and actually what you want to write down and assess. And when you do that, you start to really wake up and be more present and see what's going on. And then you start to correlate that cause and the effect. So last week I talked about cause and effect, and that directly correlates to now here we have these cravings, which is really an effect, but there was an original cause. And so looking at that and kind of understanding, let's say, for example, you have a 3 o'clock craving every day at 3 o'clock, or at work every day at 3 o'clock, you have this craving for cookies, maybe even a cup of milk. And what's really interesting is we can tie that back to an original pattern of maybe you got milk and cookies when you got home. I know my former husband did, like every time he got home from school, there would be either milk and cookies or some kind of treat waiting from school. And to this day, he needs that. That's just like a stimulus response where he needs to have his coffee fix and it's his treat time. And so if you correlate that and start to understand this cause and effect, it's going to make it so much easier to understand. One, it's going to flip the switch in your brain so that you are, you're more aware, and you can expand that gap from the stimulus to response. So you expand that out. So you're, oh, okay, that's what's really going on. And you can check and you can have the room and the space to ask the question, am I really hungry, or is this just a stimulus response Pavlov experience, right? So that is a big piece to the cravings. But again, understand that cravings are completely normal and you're not weak having them. You just want to look at the layers of what they are about. So there's that pattern of craving that can be set in with the cause and effect. And then there's the actual physiological biochemistry craving in your body, where it's craving. When we crave sugar, we're often deficient in vitamin C. So if you have that understanding, then perhaps instead of going and getting a cookie, you could eat an orange, And so that's going to satiate the need of the body for the vitamin C, but it's going to do it in a whole food way, in a healthy way. And so these are simple things that once you're aware of them, you can start making these tweaks to your own body and your lifestyle, and shifting from, okay, going and getting a cookie or going and getting a coffee with, all kinds of stuff in it. And then having that perpetuated cycle of the cause and effect being a dwindling spiral down. There's always going to be a cause and effect. We ideally want to be optimizing every day, right? So eating a cookie versus eating an orange is pretty different. You're going to get the nutrients you need, and then there's going to be less of that effect later that's going to compound where you're crashing, okay? Because the orange has fiber, or, there's things that we would look at. One of the things that we crave here, my boys and I, is pizza. And pizza and movie night has been a tradition for a while. Like Friday nights, we're like, okay, we finished the weekend, we did pizza and movie. And what's interesting is I saw a pattern starting to happen where it became a second night. And it wasn't just Friday night. Now it was also a Wednesday night. And then it also became and so we got to the point where we were having pizza and movie night 3 and 4 times a week. Now, right now, I can't even imagine that because, but I remember Dax, my youngest, got to the point where he was saying, Mom, pizza, movie. And there were some times where I was like, yeah, let's just do that. Because I didn't have things set up in place. And I was on default mode of, okay, whatever was coming in, I was just like, okay, handling it. Busy mom, busy working, juggling so many different things. And I didn't have workable solutions in place. So if you don't have these things in place, it's going to be really hard when someone comes and says, hey, can we just go get pizza? Let's just go what, and so you don't have, you just go by default and you don't have things set up. So one of the things that you can do to handle those, well, first right off is to be prepared. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I know when my son asks me, because I know he's going to ask me, Mom, pizza, movie night? Should we have pizza movie night? He's like, so cute when he said it. It's like, oh. So I know I'm prepared. Like, nope, we've got it's Taco Tuesday, or it's something else, and so I'm prepared. I know what our meals are going to be, or I know what we're doing for that night. And in being prepared, so I think I love that motto. I think, okay, Boy Scouts, right? Always be prepared. Yeah, this is fundamental. So being prepared before the cravings hit, before that autopilot sets in, you want to have things in place. Like, I don't like the idea of a diversion, but being prepared. Sometimes for my kids, I have to shift that. So for example, instantly I'll put on our favorite song, the happy song, and we'll dance to that song, and it changes the peptides that we're firing in the brain. So now the body is shifted and we can make a better decision. What do we really want? Okay, we're going to go and do what we know is the healthiest next step. So find a really solid foundation there to be prepared. And if you want to call it, okay, a diversion, sometimes you have to have it. You just have to do, but have it be a healthy diversion. So go for a walk, put on a song and dance. Things that are going to shift that algorithm where if this happens, then you're going to do that. Okay, so that's my tip number one. That is probably the most important, and you can unpack that in so many different ways, not just in the cravings. It's literally, if this happens, then I do that. Do it when you are, and as you're preparing, you're setting your time up. So if you know something's always happening, and you don't want it to happen, you don't like that end result, then shift that algorithm with something that you do want to expand or compound in a long time. Because remember, compounding interest can be positive as well. We want lots of positive compounding as well as negative. So, okay, I'm getting tired in all my talking too much. Okay. So what's happening is my brain is firing so much on this detox this week. It's amazing. My brain just starts firing so much. I have so many things I want to say. So taking a moment here. Okay. What happens when we have one thing tied to another positive thing, tied to another positive thing? We begin to compound the positive effect. I love the concepts that John Wooden talks about. It's those simple things, right? Put your sock on properly so you don't get a blister, so it doesn't keep you out of the ball game for a week. Simple things like this. And now my brain's going like, well, even start with, be prepared from breakfast on, be prepared so you're nourished and you're not crashing at 3 o'clock during the day, right? So we would unpack this. I would love to unpack this with you, especially if you're struggling. This is what I live for. So if you're struggling with something specific, let me know. We'll unpack it together. Okay, and then the second thing is you always want to keep things on hand that are healthier options. Okay, so for example, if you're constantly craving a sugar or a chai or biscotti at 3 o'clock, or let's just use that one. So let's say you're doing that and you're craving that and you know that. Well, first, don't have the biscotti around. Don't have purchased it. Instead, purchase something different, but not something that's repulsive to you. You want to have something that's just delicious. So for me, I love I make a Greek yogurt out of coconut milk, and it's this thick, delicious, and I add a little bit of mango to it. I've posted this recipe for folks. It's the Mahola mango parfait. And so I know I always have a half gallon jar in my refrigerator, always brewing the yogurt. And so I know it's there. And it's almost like it's my safety net. So I don't go to the other default, right? It's just not there. So have something like that for yourself. You could do, if you want something crispy, it could be something like, because I always hear about crispy. Oh, I just need something crispy or chunky, crunchy. So you could do noris. I love nori rolls as something like that. You could do jerky, make sure it's clean jerky, not with nitrates and a bunch of preservatives. You could do, crunchy out a nice delicious apple with a little bit of lemon on it and some almond butter. So things like that to shift that craving and handle and satiate your craving. And then also, if you've been unpacking this with me and you've done your logs and you're starting to be more aware, then you can see and tie this in. So I have a client who's originally had a craving at night. They would sit down and watch TV to kind of unwind. And so they would nosh on something, right? They would nosh on popcorn and just microwave some popcorn or something. Ugh, it's horrendous for your body. So instead of going and noshing, or even that habit of sitting down and vegging out in front of the TV because they're exhausted from the day, well, flipping that switch and doing something that actually nourishes you, not only with food, but nourishes your mind and your heart and your spirit. And so she got into actually pulling out a hobby that she hadn't done in a long time and started creating something. So it became her hobby time as a way to unwind. And the kitchen was closed. She had a cup of tea and then the kitchen was closed. So there wasn't that late night or that night unwinding, noshing. So those are things that you want to work through and work out, because remember, there's always this cause and effect, and the cravings, don't beat yourself up on them. We all have them. Everybody has them. It's what you choose to do, and being prepared and having other better options is going to take you a really long way. So, using it a little bit of a diversion, shifting, really what it is you're flipping that switch on the brain where autopilot was taking you. And maybe it's been set up for a really long time. Look at that, unpack that if it has. And then with that new insight, create something better. So you are leading a life energized and focused on the best version of you. So you're showing up productive and energized. And if you want specific help, please get on my calendar. Go to stefana.net, book a time on my calendar. Let's sit down. Let's unpack this. Let's work out, get a plan of action in place for you. We can do that in 15 minutes. I can really show you and just reset in 15 minutes. Go to stefana.net. And if you're not subscribed, be sure you're subscribed to my mailing list, and you can grab a free rapid results. I'm still sharing that. So you can go to yogilachi.com/rapid-results. And that is my guide that's getting rave reviews. There's a 5, 10, 15, and a 20-minute sequence of workouts. So when you only have small little windows, you can actually just do a 5-minute. I even have a warm-up in there that could totally act as a 2-minute exercise or a cool down. So all of those are in there, and you can grab that free, yogilachi.com/rapid-results. Until next time, have an amazing week. Let me know how it goes with those cravings.